Rami, I want to talk to you about this use of Wwox as a diagnostic. Because clearly if it's in a lot of cancers and you can detect it in advance, it's a huge possibility.
Sure. So as I said, Wwox, we found that Wwox is deleted or reduced in many types of cancer, including breast cancer. So when we did a lot of studies on these cancer, we can see that in early stages of cancer transformation, like what we call pre-neoplastic stages of cancer, we can start seeing inactivation or loss of Wwox. Although it is not cancer yet, but this might indicate that we can use Wwox as a diagnostic tool. So we can predict maybe if cancer is going to happen or can continue to happen on these cells. And we can probably predict that these patients, if they lose Wwox, totally lose Wwox, they would have shorter survival. So it's indeed possibility that we can use Wwox as a diagnostic factor in order to predict, for example, survival and cancer.
But I noticed you said possibility. Does that mean there's a big gap still between the research and some pharmaceutical company coming, come work for me and I'll make the stuff?
Well, we are very optimistic, but we still need to do on large cohorts of patients. We need to do more bigger studies at larger scale in order to make this assumption work and happen. So there's still a lot of things to be done.
Before you can get to that stage, how many, give me a sense of how much more time, never mind all the steps.
Well, it all depends on resources and interest and collaboration, but we are into it. We are very hard moving toward this aim. We are looking into breast cancer, lung cancer, osteosarcoma. These three cancers actually are the types of tumor that we saw when we knocked out the gene in the mouse. So it resembles for us something real that is happening when we delete the Wwox gene in the mouse and we get these tumors. But Wwox is also inactivated in other types of cancer, as I said, including leukemias and other solid cancer.
Okay, let's do a little bit of science, see if we can do it. How does actually Wwox function to suppress cell growth? I gather it's normal to suppress, all cells have to be controlled, right? You need repression is part of the institutional system of the body.
Right.
So it suppresses cells. Now sometimes it doesn't work. Even if you have Wwox, sometimes it doesn't work. Or does it always work as long as you have it?
So what we know in cancer, in order for cancer to occur, we need what we call some hallmarks of cancer to happen, to come through. These including more proliferation of the cells, cells that cannot die, cannot apoptose, what we call to refer to apoptosis.
Apoptosis is the normal dying of a cell?
It is the normal programmed cell death, exactly.
So we're all programmed to die.
Right. So our cells have a certain amount of time to live, and they should die naturally.
Well,
but
let me ask you a question about it, because I'm very curious about this. When I was reading your papers, I said, wow, the removal of this Wwox kind of thing means you get immortality if you're a cell, not as a human being.
Right.
So cancer can be called seeking immortality.
Right. Well, immortalization is the very first step in the cancer process. So this is what I said before. So the cancer is a multi-step process. When the first very early step is that the cells, they do not die. But then they can stay there without dying, but they're still not cancer. They're not cancers. But they need another hit, another inactivation of a tumor suppressor or an activation of an oncogene in order for them to die, for them to become cancer and to invade and to metastasize. So what we saw that in these cells that they are lacking Wwox expression. If we reintroduce Wwox, if we transfect, if we use the scientific means, transfect Wwox or deliver Wwox into these cells, we will sensitize them to die. They will apoptose more efficiently when we put Wwox inside the cell again.
Have you tried that?
Yes, we've tried this in many cells, including our lab and many other labs in the world, and it is very successful. You can kill the cells that lacks Wwox when you reintroduce Wwox inside.
So one would think, you know, if you're a layman, to say, wow, that does it. Let's pour lots of money in and get Wwox, and we'll inject all these people. Is it hard to get Wwox into the cells, by the way?
Well, there are certain means of delivery, but there is big dilemma of how to deliver genes into the cells. Yeah. So what I want to emphasize here, that we cannot cure cancer probably by one gene, by delivering of one gene, because cancer again is a multi-step process, and there are so many things that goes bad. If you look at the chromosomes of cancer cell, they are so ruined, they are so abnormal. So it's not only Wwox for sure, but there is actually a selection against particular genes that they are important for the growth of the cells and for the apoptosis of the cell. So by knowing these genes, it's very important. Then there is another point that I want to emphasize here, is that a gene by itself doesn't work by itself, actually. So Wwox does not work by itself alone. It recruits a lot of other genes and a lot of other proteins, and comprising pathways that affecting these pathway or in activating these pathway will lead to apoptosis.
Okay, well,
so if we have another hit in another gene in this pathway, we might not solve the problem.
So even if you have enough Wwox, it's not enough.
So this is where the
complication. What does it actually do? It sends messages to other chemicals to make a protein that kills the cell? Is there a hitman, if you want?
Right. So what we found is that Wwox associate or interacts with other proteins that are either induces apoptosis or it suppresses actually oncogenes from doing their function. So what Wwox does is a very smart thing. It localizes, or it is found in the cytoplasm of the cell, and prevents the nuclear transfer of certain transcription factors or oncogenes that activate the growth of the tumor cell, of the cancer cell. So by sequestering these factors in the cytoplasm, it contributes to the prevention of the continuous growth of the cell. So this is one way of Wwox doing its function. We know that also it contributes to the integrity and maintenance of the genome. So these are new data that are now developed in my lab, and what we notice is that lack of Wwox would contribute to more genomic instability, chromosomal instability. So the chromosomes and the genome would look unstable when Wwox is not present, probably because it contributes to the integrity of the genome, to the repair mechanism of the faults and problems happen in our DNA.
Well, what I thought of when you were telling me that, it's like going with your car and getting an oil change. If you don't have some element to get an oil change, your engine will break down.
Right.
I want to get on to talk a bit, and we're going to take another 10 minutes because I'm very interested in this. Why I want to go on and talk how it plays a role in evolution, because why would we have a body element that's built into the body, and this is more speculative than science for you, why we have a built-in mechanism that has to suppress cells? Why don't we have a system that they naturally die? Why do you have another guy that kills them off? So you have killers sent out to knock the genes off. It doesn't quite make sense. What role would that play in evolution? Is it allow more mutation, more, because, evolution works in a number of ways. It must play some function, and I want to know if you speculate on that. But we'll take a break, because that's a hard question, and we'll take a break and come back to it, okay? As the body grows older, it loses its ability to prevent cells from anarchic reproduction. Senescence is the scientific study of the aging process. Can it be slowed down? In politics, there is also the potential for terrorist cells reproducing anarchically. Even the Bible has something to say about such rebellion in the story of Korach. Join us next week for our show on senescence and rebellion.